So Wales has installed a blanket 20 miles per hour speed limit across all residential areas. That came in last week. Now, in this video, I won't really go into specifically the issues around 20 miles per hour limits because, you know, I've discussed those in a couple of previous videos. I'll put the links to those videos below. But I will talk about the situation, particularly as it pertains to Wales, because I think that Wales is an absolutely stunning and beautiful location, but I think it's kind of shot itself in the foot, and I'll explain why right after this.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
There it is, the dreaded 20. So let's talk about this. Now, the weird thing about Wales, and not the weird thing actually, but the great thing about Wales, I should say, about 25 years ago, when I last owned a BMW E30, like the one that I own, the regular viewers will know that I have a 1989 BMW E30 325i. About 25 years ago, I owned a very similar car, also a 325 E30 car. And I remember that one time, we went up to Wales. We went in for a holiday, really, me and my wife. We went up to Wales. We drove up through the middle of Wales, so this is starting in London. We drove up through the middle of Wales and we went to Llandudno and we stayed there and we spent a lot of time around Colwyn Bay and Conwy Castle, these places. And, you know, it was a fantastic few days, absolutely wonderful. I mean, great location, great time, beautiful place. We had a wonderful time, but one of the aspects that I really remember, obviously being a car guy and owning that car at that time, one of the great things about it was the drive. So a huge part of what made the event great was, or the trip great, was to drive that BMW on probably some of the most epic roads that we have here in the UK, and it's just absolutely brilliant. So what's happened now? Well, as we know, there's been a blanket introduction. And just to reiterate, like I said, I've covered most of this in the previous video, but just to reiterate, I completely accept 20 miles per hour limits where they're necessary or where they're actually quite useful. So in front of schools, particularly if you can time them, because that makes a lot of sense, you know, because doing 20 miles per hour at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the night on an empty road doesn't make a lot of sense, but, you know, you accept that. Around schools, around high roads, near health places or hospitals or healthcare places, that makes sense. But just a blanket 20 miles per hour limit everywhere, we've got a problem with. And you know, people with the Wales thing, people have already started commenting on my channel. And in fact, I put up a survey, a poll really, actually, on my channel. What did it come out to? So the poll was, should there be a blanket 20 miles per hour limit on every urban road? 5,500 people have responded to that poll. Yep, and 96% said no. So 96% said no. I've had people commenting and sending me messages about the situation in Wales, telling me how it, you know, it's just been driving them crazy. It's called traffic jams where there were never traffic jams before. Some people have said it's added an hour and a half to their actual overall commute time. Now, let's just look at Wales. Let's just break it down a little bit. Let's look at it in terms of facts and figures and numbers, for example. So we look at a place like Wales. It's got a population of 3.1 million people, and that's spread over 8,000 square miles. So that gives you a population density of about 290 people per square mile, I believe. I've always said I'm not great at maths, so if I'm incorrect, bear with me, but I think that's broadly correct. And those people have about 2 million cars. So there's 2 million cars in Wales. Let's put that into context. So in the rest of England, there's a population density of 700 people per square mile. So remember, I said in Wales it's 290 people per square mile. In the rest of England, it's 700 people per square mile, in England, I should say. And let's take, for example, where I am, in London. In London, there's 14,500 people per square mile. Wowzers, 290, 14,500 people per square mile. And London has 2.6 million cars. London is just over 600 square miles. It has 2.6 million cars and another 2 million drive into London every day. So that's two extremes right there. Basically what we're saying is that Wales is sparse. Wales is sparse, you know, there's a lot of land space there, there's not that many people and not that many cars. So the question then is that why are we dropping the speed limit to 20 miles per hour? You know, why is that even necessary? I mean, what they say is a safety. Well, the reality is, first of all, when you look at those numbers and you look at the space, you go, well, safety for who? Animals? Because there aren't that many people around. There aren't random people walking on across streets and stuff like that, which, first of all, can I just touch on that? And some of you will probably remember and relate to this. When I was growing up, we used to have the Green Cross Code Man. I believe he was actually the same actor. The actor that played the Green Cross Code Man was actually the same actor that played Darth Vader in the original Star Wars movies from the 70s and 80s. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was it David Prose? Maybe that was his name, I can't remember. Anyway, so he was that guy. He was the Green Cross Code Man. And in primary school, at school, we were all taught about we should not be running onto roads. So when you talk about, a lot of people talk about the fact that if you hit somebody at 30 miles per hour, you know, the deadly force of that compared to hitting somebody at 20 miles per hour. Well, that's fine, but why are people walking in front of cars on roads at that sort of speed? You know, that would be my argument. Some people might say, well, because of electric cars, because you can't hear them. With older cars, you had the engine noise so you could hear them. So, but the onus is still on the pedestrian, I think, you know, to not stray onto the road, you know, where there should be traffic without, you know, looking left and right, listening, thinking. You know, that's not to completely put the blame on pedestrians and not on motorists, because obviously bad driving happens, accidents happen, incidents happen, a single loss of life is tragic. But when you look at the safety aspect of it, and you go, well, what are we talking about here? And again, just sticking with that for a minute, and the reality is that when you talk about people getting hurt at 20 miles per hour, well, they'll still get hurt at 10 miles per hour. So what are you going to do next? Slow it down to 10 miles per hour? I mean, bicycles go faster than that. What are you going to do after that? Slow it down to 5 miles per hour? Are we going to go back to the era when we used to have a person walking in front of the car with a red flag to warn people that there's a car coming? I mean, come on, we just got to use some common sense and logic here. And I've just been completely distracted because this is amazing. I have just seen a rare Toyota Crown. Can you see that? A rare Toyota Crown with a straight 6, 2.8 litre engine. That is absolutely awesome. And this is why, as a car guy, I can't help being a bit distracted by these things. But anyway, getting back to the discussion at hand here. So what is a safe speed? Well, there is no safe speed. Let's be honest, you know. You've got to be realistic about these things. You can't keep dropping the speed limit until literally the car is not moving. There is no such thing as a safe speed, right? Accidents will still happen, right? What we can do is educate drivers and educate pedestrians to be more careful. But okay, let's look at what they are saying, right? They're saying that lowering the speed limit in Wales is expected to save 10 lives per year. This is what they're saying. And like I said right at the beginning, every single life is precious, and even a single loss of life is not to be condoned or any way whatsoever. We do not want that. But 10 lives per year. Can we try to put that into context? There's 1,700 deaths in the UK, in the whole of UK, per year. And it fluctuates by that amount, by the amount of 10 or so, year on year anyway. So when you look at it from that point of view, how much impact is there really? And then when you look at it from the safety point of view, just sticking with that argument, you look at Wales, well, the road casualties in Wales have fallen by 24% since 2019, just 4 years ago. So they've fallen by, you know, a quarter, pretty much. So already, it's, you know, and don't forget, in the UK, we do actually have one of the safest road accident track records compared to most places in the world. So we're actually quite safe here in the UK. And again, because we have clearly defined pavement, we have clearly defined roads, we teach people how to cross the road, we have things like, you know, traffic lights and zebra crossings and all of this stuff. There's no question accidents will still happen. That's unfortunate. It's a reality of life. You know, at the end of the day, you know, if you, what did I read somewhere? Something about a quote about, you know, freedom and adventure or something. You know, at the end of the day, we are humans. You know, we're not just going to be locked at home. And then don't forget, I don't have the percentage figure on the top of my head, but I do remember reading it recently, and I'm sure somebody's going to put it in the comments. But some X% of accidents, which is a very high number, actually happen in the home. They happen at home. So, you know, even staying at home is dangerous. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? That's the reality of it, right? So why are they changing this then? Why are they bringing the 20 miles per hour limit then if it's not about road safety? Because 10 people, you know, I mean, it's a big investment to put up road signs and road markings and blanket change this for the sake of 10 people. I mean, if that really was the case, you know, there's a lot of other deaths and numbers of deaths happening throughout the UK where there could be better investment to bring those numbers down. Crime, for example. But anyway, let's stick with this. What they're saying in Wales, they're saying that the aim is to reduce car usage to 50% of all journeys by 2030, with 30% using public transport, 10% walking and 10% cycling. To achieve this level of change, we envisage a major shift in capital investment from roads to public transport. We want to move Wales away from a system dominated by petrol-driven cars towards more sustainable transportation. We would allocate at least 50% of capital transport spend on improving bus and train services. Have you actually seen, you know what? I'll put it up on the screen. But if you look at a map of England, and look at a map with the rail network on it, and actually you can see that, first of all, England is extremely well serviced by the rail network, but even then you would argue, and I would argue, that it's still woefully inadequate for most people's needs. A, there's always problems with it. B, it's very expensive to use. And C, you know, it never quite gets you to where you need to go. You still then have to rely on some form of road transport to get to your destination. But that's the nature of railways. However, if you look at Scotland on the map, it's pretty sparse. You look at Wales, similarly, it's very sparse. So I don't understand where this, I mean, are they just suddenly going to build new trains and new tracks? Is that what they're doing? That would be extraordinary. That's a big area to cover with new trains and new tracks, if that's the ambition. That's very ambitious. But anyway, the question then is, how are people expected to get around? Are they really going to put enough buses in the whole of Wales? What did I say, 8,000 square miles? Enough buses for anybody at any time wanting to go anywhere? They could do that from their village or their small residential areas? I mean, that would be extraordinary if they achieved that. I don't think 50% of their budget is going to do that. But what are they going to do? Is they're going to lose a lot of their budget, actually. They could argue that they lost 5 billion because of the what is it, HSV train network, which actually doesn't even go to Wales, but Wales is being required to contribute to it. And maybe this is why they're enforcing this, because they're kind of trying to get their money back. Because obviously people will be fined, because this is the other thing about 20 miles per hour limits, of course, is that they inevitably make ordinary drivers criminals, because you know, getting caught at doing overspeeding at 34, 35 miles per hour makes sense, but getting caught speeding at 24 miles per hour, what? Let's factor in tourism to Wales, and that's the big thing. And so it brings us back to what I was talking about right at the beginning of this. Tourism to Wales is worth 3.5 billion a year, contributes about 5% to the Welsh economy. Now, I know a lot of motoring groups, bikers as well. I know even of people that organize regular trips, driving holidays, staycations to Wales, because it has some of the best roads and some of the best places to see in the country, you know. So it's not unusual. In 2019, there were 87.3 million day visits. This is for Wales. Just under 10.7 million overnight domestic trips and a little over 1 million international trips to Wales. Tourism is important to Wales. Now, I don't think that they realize the damage that this 20 miles per hour limit is going to do to their economy. A, by basically slowing everybody down and frustrating everybody, frustrating their own, you know, denizens. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you know, that person has got 1.5 hours to get to work. I mean, either he's going to quit or change jobs or leave Wales or whatever, you know. Ultimately, that's what's going to happen. And B, by literally dissuading motorists, cars and bikes from visiting Wales. Because, you know, if that's how frustrating it's going to be, who wants to drive in that situation, right? And when you do that, when you take away this road traffic from anywhere, and historically you've seen this, just look back at the old Route 66 in America and what happened when everybody moved to highways. But it's very obvious that what will happen is that you're going to lose places like hotels, bread and breakfast places, pubs, restaurants, cafes, and, you know, popular attractions along these road routes. This is what's going to happen. They're all going to suffer. It's inevitable. To be honest, like, it just totally seems crazy to me that they've done this, and I can't help but feel that Wales has sort of shot itself in the accelerator pedal with this one. Now, the outcome of all of this is, of course, that though I have kind of tried to recreate my younger days by buying that BMW, which is a car that I used to own, I don't think I'll be recreating that journey anytime soon, because it sounds like it's going to be terribly frustrating, which is very, very sad. But anyway, yeah, I think that the downsides of this 20 miles per hour blanket limit, are far greater than any benefits or perceived benefits. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm sure you will, and I'll speak to you in the next video.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these 3 little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.